So I'm here in the beautiful Vundu camp in Monopools National Park with co-owner Nick Murray and his wife Des, who is out doing a task. And I have the pleasure of interviewing him on the behalf of Bushlife Conservancy, of which Nick is the president and the heart and soul of our organization. And he's given me permission to ask him a few questions. So the first question is, how and why did your ancestors come to southern Rhodesia?
No, I'm first generation in this country. My mum brought us here when I was only 5 years old. So I'm actually born in Wales and came out here, like I said, when I was 5. And before I even came here, though, I developed a passion for wildlife. I still have BBC Wildlife magazines my grandfather gave me when I was 2 years old. So it was a passion which I've had for a long time. Desiree, on the other hand, my wife, her family had been in southern Africa since 1647. So they have almost half a century of time in Africa. My great-grand, who we knew for probably the first 10 years of our life, she came up as a 2-year-old infant on the ox wagon as one of the first pioneers in 1898.
That was your step-great-grandmother, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And so where did she come to? To what was then Springfield, or now Harare?
They settled just outside of Harare in a place called Norton.
So did she have a lot of influence on your childhood and your developing your love of this country?
My grandmother, she was really tough. Until she was 72 years old, she was teaching 200 children a week how to ride horses. Wow. And so our upbringing with her was always riding horses out in the bush, and that's what we did every weekend when we were off school, was ride horses around the bush.
Wow. So at about 5, 6, 7, you were out riding in the bush and learning about the wildlife and
Yep.
identifying animals and building up your love of nature at such a young age. So you knew from very little that was the area you wanted to devote your life to.
Yeah, right from a really early age. That's all I wanted to do, is work in the bush somewhere.
Well, given the tragic mismanagement of your country, Zimbabwe, indeed the whole planet, what keeps you motivated to continue to risk your life and sacrifice your family life working to protect the wildlife and the ecology of Monopools National Park?
It's hard to say what drives you to do that, but it's just a combination of conserving what is one of the most beautiful areas on the planet and some of the most amazing wildlife on the planet. So it really is a unique environment, and we have privileges here in Zimbabwe. As a professional guide, we're licensed to carry a firearm and to walk anywhere we want. We have a huge amount of freedom with how we conduct our safaris, which is unique to anywhere in Africa. So I think that's what keeps us out in the bush. We're able to walk around, approach animals on foot, and it's a totally different feeling as from being in a vehicle all the time. And I think that keeps you energized to a certain degree, and just develops more of an appreciation.
And the fact, I imagine, that you've seen results of your work over the last few years must give you the positive feedback that it's worth it, because you think it's actually something that you can do. You can actually make a difference. You are making a difference in the park right now with your conservation work, so you're not feeling like this is hopeless.
Yeah, when we first started, the task was quite daunting, and it was a massive job. We're losing animals, elephant in particular, you know, several a week. If you took over the whole Zambezi Valley where we are, it worked out to an elephant a day over a 20-year period. So it was an epidemic of poaching. And in the last few years, through just, you know, providing the means to get rangers deployed into the bush, we've cut that down to the last 12 months, we've had 4 elephants poached. So it's 1 every 3 months as opposed to 1 every day. So it's been a huge impact. And like we say, when you get great results like that, it gives you a lot of, what's the word, energy to keep on going, and, you know, it inspires you to do more.
Right, and your work that Bushlife Conservancy supports, your foundation, your Bushlife Support Unit, which does all the work, is improving and increasing the outreach to the community, which is going to build this vision of protecting the park beyond just the animals. It sounds like that it's also going to provide work for people and bring positive motivation to all the community.
Yeah, so originally our community focus was on the rangers that are in the park, that ranger community. They need clinics and community centers and, you know, just improvements in their lifestyle or living conditions. But now we're looking further afield to start working in the outlying community areas, particularly in the south of Monopools, and there's a huge amount of work to be done there. So that's another daunting task, is not only to choose some really worthwhile projects where the community will benefit, but also at the same time creating awareness for the wildlife and give people an appreciation for the wildlife and to make it important in their lives.
That they can actually benefit more from keeping the wildlife healthy and alive than they can from.
Exactly. So more long-term benefit, and try to teach people to look at the long-term, not the immediate short-term, because once the animals are wiped out, they're gone forever, or it takes 20 years for them to recover, instead of having a constant benefit from having the wildlife around.
Right. So while other people have a relationship with their, say, pet cat or pet dog, you've actually befriended wild bull elephants. So you have an ability to exchange understanding with them. How have you developed this personal bond which results in a trust that allows you to actually walk strangers and clients right up to them?
Just a process of time. You know, like Tusker, for example, he's probably our most friendly bull. We've known him since he left his matriarchal herd when he was 13 or 14 years old, and now that's 15 years ago, so he's in his late 20s. He's got big tusks, he looks a lot older, but over those 15 years, he's learned he used to chase us around camp when we were building camp. He hated the guys pushing the squeaky wheelbarrow, so he's gone from that, chasing us around, to almost seeking out human company. When he broke his leg a few years ago, and he felt safe enough to come into camp and would sleep for a week in camp, just lying on the side, getting up, feeding a bit, lying down on the other side, and he stayed in camp for a week. He felt like this was a safe place. So I think that may have also helped in his sort of habituation to humans, that he realized while he was in pain that he didn't have to fear us.
Right.
And now that he's fine, he accepts us as, part of the furniture, so to speak.
So you feel the closest, would you say, to Tusker of all of the
Yeah,
of all of
definitely
your
Tusker,
friends?
yeah.
And then Impey's is
Impey is another one. You get really close to Impey, and Boswell, he doesn't let you get too close, but on times he'll let you, when he's in a good mood, he'll let you get reasonably close, you know.
but you have to distinguish if he's in a good mood, and that's just through the body movements of the ears flapping and that sort of thing. Or
Yeah.
how do you assess if this bull elephant is okay to approach?
Just body language from straight off. You can notice from a distance if that elephant is going to be approachable on that particular day or not. And then if, you know, you just break each boundary as you get closer and closer, then you can judge his body language at each sort of barrier. And if he reacts in the right way, then you can walk along with him while he's feeding and let him carry on his normal behavior while you're walking along right next to him.
And how many individuals would you say you could do that with at the present moment?
And there's probably like 20 bulls that will allow you to do that. And quite a few cow groups are also very habituated. When they're following the bulls and feeding, they'll let you walk in amongst the herd or stand next to a tree while the herd mills around. So there's several herds of cows which have also become very used to our presence. And that being on foot is quite a thing. You know, you get cows which are used to vehicles being around, but having cow groups within meters of you on foot is quite a unique experience.
Do you think there's something specific to the elephants at Monopools, or do you think anybody with your talent would be able to do that in any park, or is there something about these Monopool elephants?
I think it's a combination of things, but in Mana has a certain set of circumstances which leads to it. People are allowed to walk anywhere you want in the park, so there's lots of people, not lots of people, there's often people are walking around in the bush around these animals, and there's lots of mobile tented camps where there's people milling around, and the animals move up and down the river, weaving their way through these camps and get very used to people. So it's a combination of the elephants used to people and people used to elephants.
And that doesn't happen that frequently in other parks,
No, I
where
don't think so. Yeah.
there's the freedom of movement
Yeah.
on foot.
No, exactly.
Do you feel that you can communicate at this level with other species, or is there something special about elephants?
Well, the levels that you can interact with elephants are probably at a closer level than you can anything else. But some of the lions here are very used to us on foot too. So you can literally, with some of the lions that are here, you can walk through the bush with them while they're hunting. They'll pay no attention to you, but focus on their prey species, be it a waterbuck or a kudu or warthog, and they'll focus on those animals and let you walk along with them. So that's also just something that has developed over years and years of walking with these animals. And then the wild dogs.
They know your presence, the wild dogs.
The wild dogs know us, I think, individually also, from scent. We spend a lot of time with them. In fact, probably the one pack which was featured in the Dynasties movie, the Painted Wolves episode, every single one of those dogs, probably the first animal that they saw other than another wild dog was one of us. So since they're 3 or 4 weeks old, they have seen us around in their lives, and so they're totally habituated with us. So the same thing, they let you walk with them while they're on a hunt and approach them really closely on foot, and it is quite a special relationship.
Do you have individual names for some of the lions like you do for the elephants, or is not quite as much frequent interaction?
No, some of the lions do have names, but I must say we haven't really focused on the lions very much. More elephants and wild dogs.
Well, you're trying to
Yeah.
save they're not being poached to the same degree as the elephants, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the elephants have become an iconic species, and the wild dogs, being an endangered species, have become very important to us. And the lions, of course, it's nice to have lions around, and some of them do have names, but we haven't given them as much focus as the other species.
And of course, that's all part of your vision for growing
Yeah.
your work is to do a predator.
Well, we're working on a carnivore project at
Carnivore.
the moment, so we can looking at doing various research projects, including the wild dogs, which we've been doing already for the last 7-8 years, and lions, leopard, and hyena. Because there's a few interactions which we're concerned about at the moment, namely the high numbers of hyena and lion, which are impacting the wild dog population. So we're looking at a decline in the wild dog population by probably as much as 65 to 70% along the floodplain of Mana Pools, having traditionally been one of the highest densities of wild dogs in the world, or in Africa. Now the numbers are declining. So we're going to look specifically at lion and hyena numbers and their movements and see if they're having an impact on the wild dogs. We know they are because we see the results. We've seen wild dogs and, hyenas and lions killing wild dog pups and find the remains of adults being killed by lions. So we know there is a high impact, but it's something that we want to look at more closely.
Great.
See if there aren't any management issues that we need to be looking at to help populations of the wild dog pick up again.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nick, thank you very much for your help in this interview. And is there anything else you'd like to add, maybe that I haven't asked you?
No, not really. I think we should say anything about fundraising or anything like that.
Well, Nick, in order to get all your projects, this vision that you've developed to save the park and these species, the role of Bushlife Conservancy, of course, is to give you the financial wherewithal to do these projects that are critical for conservation and to expand. So I really hope that whoever is watching this will consider a donation to Bushlife Conservancy or even Bushlife Support Unit if you're from the UK and that's easier for you. And I just hope that you'll continue to support the work that this hero is achieving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cut.
Thanks, Laura.